Megaman, powered up!
Another thing I forgot to mention thus far as well, the last character you played as is the one who takes the spot on the title screen. I recorded this right after the Fireman Dark Mega fight. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man Powered Up. In the last part, we showed off some extra stuff, and now it's time for the last real bonus before we head to the Wily Castle, Old Style. Old Style is essentially just the original Mega Man 1's level design in the new graphics and mechanics of Powered Up. You still can't shoot through walls, but neither can enemies. The screen ratio's been reduced down to 4:3, and overall it's more or less just Mega Man 1. Again, technically speaking, that means this is the, what, 4th time I've done the original level design of Mega Man 1 in an LP format? Because there's the original LP, the replay, the Wily Wars. I've played Mega Man a lot on this channel. On the whole, not too much is changed. Otherwise, though, some level design is slightly changed around, just to make it work better with the way the level engine works for this game. For instance, where there was an off-screen platform, now it's quite clearly visible, like in Fireman stage in particular. During that section where there was a platform in the original game, but not in Wily Wars, there's a platform there and it's on screen. The only other real level design change of note, that I can remember at the top of my head right now at least, is the boss rush in Wily 4, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Admittedly, I do like the graphic update on the whole, for the stage design in particular, just because I think it fits better with some of the aesthetics. For instance, Bomb Man having those weird colony orbs, or whatever the hell those were in the background, always just felt a bit odd. And it's nice hearing the Mega Man 1 music again. Something a bit odd, though. Between the stages and level select and vice versa during the main game, there are loading screens. In this, they don't load. I'm assuming the main reason they load like that is because they probably load everything that happens in the level from the start, including voice lines, and they probably need to make sure those are loaded first. I'm not entirely sure about one thing, though, and that's boss patterns in Old Style, if they just outright mimic the older ones or if they just got as close as they could. Because Bomb Man feels relatively unchanged. In fact, he tries to keep close to me comparatively. Because in the NES game, I've always noticed Bomb Man likes to try and stay away from you, which is why I always kept so close to him in that. Here, not so much. Oh, actually, no, wait, there are load screens after levels. It's before the levels there's none, at least that I can remember. Yeah, see, it goes right to that. Now, the weakness chain is back to what it was in Mega Man 1, as is the damage, which you need to keep an eye out for. For instance, because I have Hyper Bomb right now, it will 3-shot Guts Man will 2-shot Cut Man, 3 shots, Elect Man, 3 shots, Ice Man, so on and so forth. And it also go towards you, Elect Man and Ice Man will 3-shot you, so be careful. However, at the same time, again, things aren't exactly the same because, for instance, the physics on these things actually are what they should be now, and they actually work correctly. As well, any glitches in the NES game that weren't present here are still not present. For instance, the Mega Man 1 spike glitch, where invulnerability frames are supposed to keep you safe from everything, but you still get killed by spikes. That's fixed here. Though admittedly, I learned something new on this particular playthrough of Mega Man 1. I learned that this is apparently where the checkpoint is. Because I failed there. I have been playing this game for a good amount of my life, and I've never known this is where the checkpoint was. Mega Man 1 is one of those games where I die. If I die, it's in very consistent places. Like, it's against Elect Man, the first portion of this stage, because I hate the Guts platforms. Pre-Yellow Devil, and sometimes during the boss rush. Those are usually like the 4 or 5 places I tend to die in one, if I die at all. Also, another little change that I don't show off there. You've seen me do it throughout the entire game thus far, but Mega Man Powered Up does do the thing that I think Mega Man X introduced, where you can press LNR to switch your powers. And you can still do that in old style mode. I just forget to do it at first because I'm just so used to, whenever I play Mega Man 1, not doing that. Admittedly, though, in some ways I think this game might be easier than Mega Man 1 as it was to begin with, which is admittedly one of the harder Mega Mans. I'm just too used to it at this point. That all comes down to the physics that the game still has to begin with. For instance, Gutsman moves much faster than that on the NES, and he throws the boulders quite a bit more quickly as well. So, at the end of the day, you're technically playing Mega Man 1. I guess you could think of it as a patch Mega Man 1. Is that a good way to look at it, I suppose? Now, admittedly, one thing that just does kind of throw me off about this is that it's called old style, yet it's not actual Mega Man 1, it's just powered up in Mega Man 1, if that makes sense. And it might just be some of the Nintendo patterns screwing with my head. But I have always figured that remakes should in some way have the original game in them. For instance, how Zero Mission has Metroid 1 in it after you beat the game. How the Rondo of Blood remake has both Rondo of Blood's original and Symphony of the Night in there. That was a real good thing. Things like that. It just seems like something Capcom of all people would have done. That's always something I found odd about the game, actually, right there. The little scissor throwers in Cutman stage. I think the physics were changed for new style in particular, because I have a harder time dodging them. I think the scissors bounce, which is what may be screwing with me. But yeah, something that I should mention about hard mode as well that I haven't mentioned so far. These guys, in particular, got a major buff where they move like 3 times faster, and it's really annoying. It's the most annoying in this stage because I think this is where they spam these things the most, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. It is interesting, though, thinking back on all of the times I've played Mega Man 1. Because I played Mega Man 1 a lot for the channel. As I mentioned, this is technically the 4th one that the original level design of Mega Man 1 showing up on this channel. But even in my life, I've played Mega Man 1 a lot. It's not my favorite game in the series, far from it, but I think it's just because it's such a short game, I can pick it up and play it, be done in an hour, like between like classes or assignments. I think that's what makes me go back to it a lot. Even Mega Man 6, which is my favorite game in the series and of all time, as some of you know, is a game I go back to maybe once or twice a year because I like to savor the hell out of that thing. There's some games like that I love to death, but I just can't go back to a lot, just because otherwise it just feels wrong, I guess. I do that with Final Fantasy IX as well. Last time I played 9 was probably 3 years ago at this point, despite it being my second favorite in the series. Oh yeah, that's another little thing there. Obviously, Quickman killed me. But you might have noticed both of the guts blocks were there after I died. That is something else they fixed from Mega Man 1, though I can't tell if that was a bug or just an unfortunate circumstance of how the game was programmed. In Mega Man 1, if you picked up a guts block and threw it, after you died, it would still be gone. And in Gutsman's case, that actually screwed you over a little bit, because then you couldn't take him out in 2 shots like that. There is, I also think, something else that just makes this game a little bit easier. And it relates to the graphics, like I said earlier, I think. Because of the game's 3D nature, things are better telegraphed. So you just have a better idea of what's going to happen and when, compared to the NES, where they could flip between 2 sprites within the snap of a finger, really. For instance, these enemies. In Mega Man 1 on the NES, the moment you were perpendicular to them, they fired. However, because they needed to have the extra animation of them opening up here in Powered Up, they are slower on the draw and firing, therefore it's much easier to dodge them. Mind you, I think I could still get past them in the NES game just by holding up, but they're a lot less likely to hit you in Powered Up, even compared to the original. Now, one thing I've yet to do is look up Powered Up speedruns. I think I've seen one somewhere along the lines. So let's look this up. I know they don't use speedrun.com for Mega Man runs. Mega Man runs have their own little community. Actually, well, no, it's on speedrun.com. Real time, 80% Mega Man, 34 minutes, 10 seconds. Yeah, that seems about right, actually. If you practice as much of a speedrunner, that makes sense. Also, because we're playing old style, the magnet beam is indeed here and isn't part of the game. It works a bit differently, I think, though, because I don't think the ammo continuously drains now. It has 14 shots to it, and that one shot can be as long as you want it to be. Though to compensate for that, I believe it might fade faster, but I can't tell if it's actually fading faster or the lack of the slowdown from the NES version is just screwing with my head. Either way, also on speedrun.com, 8% Proto Man, 22 minutes. I can see that just due to the bonus damage. Any percent roll, also 22 minutes. Oh wait, no, that's in-game time. 80% Proto Man real time, around 30 something minutes. About 40 for roll. What counts as the timer actually in game? Anytime you're in control, obviously. Times you're not in control, like cutscenes, probably not. Load screens, probably not. Ooh, would the level select count? Probably. There's probably a whole like method to learning what it does, but I'm not interested in really caring. I just play these games. I don't really care about the individual workings of timers. The only times I care about a timer in an LP is when it's a Metroid game and I need to get 100% within a certain time frame. Or whenever I have to show off a certain thing in Final Fantasy IX. Not sure how I'm gonna do that. Probably just hack the timer out or something. I don't know. I might show off Excalibur 2 when I get to that. I'll see. But yeah, as you can see, Electman definitely got his damage back. Ow. I've said it a lot. Mega Man 1, compared to its sequels, even compared to 2 with its other damage balancing issues. Issues? Wow, that was bad. Issues is just kind of strange. Partially due to the control, partially due to the score system. There's just a lot of things about Mega Man 1 that make it odd. It's very much a case of first game syndrome, like Spyro 1, Mario 1, Crash 1. Final Fantasy 1 is less so due to it being the first game, more so doing it just being an old RPG, so on and so forth. It's always interesting looking back at things like that. Like Pokemon Ranger to me. I love that series, but Ranger 1 suffers to me from first game syndrome. Almia and Guardian Signs are my two favorite there. Now, I think I've talked about this in a couple of other occasions, or maybe that just may have just been with my friends. But I've never actually really attempted to speedrun a Mega Man game. I think the closest I got was one time where I got like 30 minutes exact in Mega Man 1 or something crazy like that. The closest I can think of is Mega Man 03. There was one time I got like 52 or something minutes on the dot. In-game save time. I'm not sure what that translates to real time. In fact, I can probably check for discrepancy. Mega Man 03 on speedrun.com. Oh, wait, would that be on the other side? That might be on the other side. Yeah, it's looking like it's on the other side. Partially, the only reason I did it at the time was because, first off, I love 03 to death. I've played that game a lot over the years. And secondly, I think it was just an evolution of me playing it while my grandfather was in the hospital prior to his passing. It was just one of those games I played a lot. It was the only Game Boy Advance card I brought with me at the time, so it kind of grew on me for more than one reason because of that. Also, that section's a nightmare. I hate those helicopter things so much, but thankfully, since it's an old style, I have the magnet beam to at least get past it. And then we see another little bonus of playing on old style, and something I've actually entirely forgot to mention thus far, now that I think about it. Mega Man, by default, actually has an energy balancer on him in Powered Up. Any weapon energy you have when you're in standard Mega Man goes to whatever weapon's the lowest. For instance, that'll went to the Magnet Beam. I have forgotten to mention that entirely thus far, actually. Thank you, game, for reminding me. So yeah, that's pretty handy. In the case that you are low on a lot of weapons, you can just do that. However, if you want to fill up a specific weapon out of like things that are around rough equal percentage, you do need to select that weapon in particular to restore it to max or whatever you want to do with it. Alright, Mega Man leaderboard's down then. What is 03's? Games, 0 Series, 3. 03, real time 41, game time 23? Yeah, that's a lot. That's like twice the speed of mine. Well, that would probably put me, if I'm just basing off this, Mr. Cab's 1:36.16 for 22nd place. That old time probably would put me around 24th, 28th. I don't know, nor do I care. I don't care about my records that much, really. The only times I care about doing something fast is when a game I care about getting like all the achievements for requires me to do something fast. Or to a certain score, for that matter. Because, for instance, I became a fan of the Yakuza series in 2018. I should say I'm saying specific in 2018 right now because it's January 1st, 2019, as I'm recording this. Happy New Year, by the way. Yeah, although this is going to come out in like March or something. But I am going for platinums basically every Yakuza game I played, and like last night, I was spending like an hour getting the 100,000 points in Fantasy Zone. I've now played more of Fantasy Zone than I think anyone else in my family has, just due to that. Admittedly, something that I've also forgotten to mention about the game thus far is that a lot of the weapons had their ammo counts changed. And I'm not sure if it's just because I'm used to lower or higher ammo in whatever case, but I find myself using the weapons a bit more for traversal in Powered Up compared to 1. But mind you, as you probably noticed over the years, for those who have been with the channel a while, when it comes to Mega Man games, I tend to be the kind of guy who uses the Mega Buster more than anything. It was only really around the time I did in the Let's Plays of like 9, 10, and some of the X games where I really used some of my other abilities like Storm Tornado and stuff. Part of that is just because I don't, as particularly in like the older Mega Man games, like 1 through 6, I don't think to switch my weapons that often, just because I don't have the L and R quick switch. And that's entirely on just the way my mind works. If I can't pause, I don't have the weapons, if that makes sense. Especially in like, I think it was Mega Man 4 that introduced the actual like pause screen instead of just like a little menu that comes up. That really slowed things down when it came to getting your abilities out. Oh, and hey, look, Fireman has little fire things again that spawn underneath you. Yay, he's annoying again. Great. But even then, compared to NES, I still think he's easier because he's not only are his projectiles slower, but he's still nowhere near as spam heavy. Also, because that's the last of the 6 Robot Masters down, if for some reason you've never played Mega Man 1 and are waiting to see the Wily Castle and the bosses within it, for the main LP, I'd actually recommend, or main portion of the LP, I'd come back to this next portion after next part, because, well, we're just going straight into the Wily Castle and fighting all 4 of them. Although, a weird little quirk, and I'll mention this again next part for those who do skip this part just due to that. A weird little quirk that Powered Up has is that it does the Mega Man X1 sort of thing, where in between each level, you actually go back to the level select castle. And that just feels wrong for Mega Man 1 to me, because I've just played the original so many times in a row. So you can, for some reason, go between the levels like that. I think it might have to do with the difficulty system, actually, is why they did it. So you could replay each individual level on, like, easy or hard if you wanted to, instead of just going through all of them locked into one difficulty. That actually makes sense if that's the case. Whereas games like Mega Man 7 or 8, so you can use the shop if you need to, go get extra bolts, so on and so forth. Also, this level's a lot more garishly pink in Mega Man 1, as you can see. Or, Powered Up, as you can see. Yeah, they kept that. I'm not actually sure if you can do that in the Powered Up new style. Destroy the Guts blocks with the Elect Beam. You can definitely do it in old style, because that's how it was in Mega Man 1. Also, there's an enemy missing here. One of those weird Bonsai Bill looking guys is supposed to attack you there. That's wrong. Inaccurate. Make sure to stock up here, by the way, because this is where we need to use Magnet Beam, because it's required to get. I'm a lot worse at judging my jumps in Powered Up for the Magnet Beam for some reason. Maybe it's just due to the fact I can't exactly control less of it. Let me restart the sentence. The Magnet Beam feels a bit looser to me for some reason. Maybe it's the fact that the sprite isn't an exact rectangle, so I can't tell exactly where it ends and begins, other than the obvious, like, white portion of light in the middle. But either way, it's time for the Yellow Devil, and they actually make this fight a bit easier on you to start, because he doesn't start by attacking you like he did in the original game. He actually does his little intro animation that he's going to do next part as well, and then the fight truly begins. He is still weak to the usual thing, though. In fact, most of the bosses, aside from the final one, are weak to what they used to be. So, yeah. I think the pattern's the exact same, but even then, again, Yellow Devil's easier and powered up because he's so much slower. He'd be done by now if this was the NES version, I believe. At least he feels slower. Maybe in fact there's an actual sound effect, just makes it feel slower. The whole science of what feels slower versus what actually is, with the tricks on the eye and the little animations and sound effects, that's a whole thing. Honestly, I still think the hardest Yellow Devil, or hardest Devil monster, is between the original Mega Man 1, if you don't use the pause trick, the Shadow Devil in X.5, just because, God, I hate that thing. And... yeah, honestly, that's probably about it. Because even some of the later Yellow Devils, like the Yellow Devil Mark, whatever, from 3 isn't that bad. Both of the Green Devils are pathetically easy in 8 and base. Huh. Obviously, there's another one I'm neglecting to mention just in case some people haven't played a certain game yet, but me saying that probably reveals it anyway, so... No, actually, I did hear that apparently another Mega Man game is entering pre-production in 2019, which means to me... Whoa, that was weird. Which means to me that 11 definitely did well enough to the point where they're making more of them, and that makes me happy. Yeah, but what you just saw, that's a weird little thing that I discovered during this particular run of Old Style. For some reason, if you just start mashing left and right, sometimes you'll just end up slipping and sliding all over the place due to the momentum Mega Man carries with him. So that's the thing. Also, though, at this point, Mega Man 1's making me run out of things to say, because I've covered this game 3 times, and there's a reason I brought someone along with me for Wily Wars, because I didn't think I could carry the game on my own for a 3rd time. The only reason I'm doing it alone this time around is because it's the remake, and it's old style, which means I can definitely find more things to talk about. There's only so many times you can play a certain game for a channel, if that makes sense. The only games that could theoretically go on forever are stuff like MOBAs, online competitive games, so on and so forth. Like, I watch a good bit of Shell Shock Live on YouTube myself from a few select people. And I never get tired of it just because, first off, inter-friend banter like that I just find really, really nice and charming. Also, did somebody say boss rush? I know I usually have text scroll on screen to tell you what the song is that you're listening to, but given the layout of Mega Man 1's boss rush, and old style especially, I decided to go out and not do that. The song for this boss rush is the Woodman remix present in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is fantastic, both the game and the song, I should specify. I am always going to be more of a fan of the Mega Man 2 onwards capsule rooms or boss rushes more than the Mega Man 1. You fight certain bosses in certain parts of stages kind of thing. Just feels better for game design in my eyes, because just throwing people at a boss like that without any kind of warning is kind of to me. It's one thing if it's like the main boss of the stage, but just a random, oh hi, I'll kill you in 3 hits because I'm a like man. Never been quite the fan of that. Even as much damage as Mega Man can take from certain characters in 2 as well, at least the boss rush room, you figure out what that is really quickly and you adapt to it. Even X1, I think it's kind of bad, but X1's just a better designed game anyway with damage and weapons, so I'm willing to let it go a bit more. Either way, time for Copybot. To this day, I'm still not sure if Copybot has an actual weakness. I know I used Firestorm a lot in Mega Man 1 just due to how it worked, but here in the remake, it feels weaker. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go on the Mega Man knowledge base and see if I can find this thing's exact weakness as I kill it. Firestorm's still really effective, as you can see. Weakness, Hyper Bomb, Firestorm, or Thunder Beam. Yeah, that seems about right. They probably just do the most damage. It's probably the same here. But at the end of the day, eh. Wily 3 I always felt was just kind of an odd stage compared to everything else with how short it is, but at the same time, it's a short game. Who knows how much cartridge space they'd used at this point, so they probably just made a smaller stage. Now, this section in particular, I have to change my strategy up a bit for compared to Mega Man 1. Because in Mega Man 1 Original, I could just stand still and fire forward and not get touched. But the Penguin guys now start high rather than low, so I can't kill them as quickly. Plus, their arcs are much wider. And the little shark bullet things, their explosion effect now lingers longer. And because of that, I have to be a bit more careful with where I stand. However, to compensate, some of the sharks actually start higher anyway, so I don't have to shoot them. Weird little differences here in the remake, but it makes it different, that's for certain. Either way, time for CWU-01P. This boss is a bit different in the remake, but we'll see exactly why later on. They actually give you a visual representation of how much health they have here in old style now, though, because the smaller the bubble gets, the less HP it has, and when it's just the CW-01P on its own, just shoot it once and it's down, and it gets faster as it goes, as usual. Although, if you're playing new style hard mode, I'll bring this up again when we fight this thing properly, in new style, this thing gets ridiculously fast. Also, make sure to save the super arm things for the last two, just so you can wrap it up that much more quickly. And with that, we're on to the final stage. I do find it interesting just how much more expanded Mega Man 2 is compared to 1, because Mega Man 2 casually is between like an hour and a half, whereas Mega Man 1, even, because keep in mind, I play this game rather casually, all things considered. It's still only like a half hour long with the pace I usually take. Mind you, I am new. I'm experienced with this game. It's not like I'm a newbie. A newbie would be at this for quite a few more hours. But like Mega Man 2, it's like twice the size, and I find that very interesting. Actually, it's not quite twice the size, actually. Mega Man 1's 10 stages, whereas I think 2 is 12? It's only like 2 stages more? Actually, no, it might be 13. Either way, the Asaiji's down there, and that will still restore your HP and weapon energy, but I don't feel like going for it just because you go back to level select between every stage in Powered Up, even in old style, your weapon energy gets restored from that anyway, so it's basically just there for accuracy's sake. That was probably the most radically different part of the game since they changed the boss rushes to actually be sequential like that, instead of being the usual teleporters, even from Mega Man 1, where you went through the vertical sequence. I don't know why they did that, but I'll take it. Either way, it's time for the big, bad, wily machine, which I admittedly do a stupid here. Because I'm so not used to playing Powered Up and Mega Man 1 in Powered Up, I, for some reason, forgot its weakness. Here on Old Style, it is weak against Firestorm. I don't know why it is, but it is. It does like 5 or 6 units of damage, but because I do a stupid here, I just Mega Buster it to death, or at least until I die, basically. It's an admitted stupid, plus I'm thinking with Mega Man 1 sensibilities because I'm usually a bit more conservative with my ammo in that game comparatively, despite the higher damage output Mega Man has with his weapons. I think what it ultimately comes down to is that In Mega Man 1, I tended to use elect beam or rolling cutter even during phase 1 as well, because even though they weren't supposed to, those did more than one hit of damage worth. Whereas the Firestorm was a one and done weapon. Why would I use it, right? No, it does more damage in this. Use it. And now it's time for phase 2. Which, admittedly, I actually like the changes that they did to the Wily Machine visually, where they give it more of a tank appearance in Form 1, whereas Form 2 is what we know and love. This is what's weak against Thunder Beam, and I think Rolling Cutter it's still weak against in the remake? Don't quote me on that, but yeah, just use Elect Beam, and that's probably what you're going to be best with. Look how much damage Firestorm does. I hate that I didn't remember that during the original attempt. Either way, Wily Machine 2 I actually feel is, or Wily Machine 1 Form 2 is easier in powered up old style than it was in the original Mega Man 1. Partially just because the projectiles are a bit slower, I think, but also because since the machine is smaller, it takes up less of the screen and therefore you have more room to move around in than the original. Though the moving left and right makes things a bit more annoying at the same time, but it doesn't really at the same time. That was a lot of redundancies in sentence form, but I swear that would probably make sense on paper. And that's old style. Bow before me, old man. Yes, grovel. Old style, as you can see, is more or less just Mega Man 1. Again, this is gonna be the last time we see the original level design in an LP format on this channel. I swear. I pinky promise. The only other time you'll see it is probably in live streams. Mega Man has ended the evil domination of Dr. Wily and restored the world to peace. However, the never-ending battle continues until all destructive forces are defeated. Fight, Mega Man, for everlasting peace! Ah, iconic. But yeah, old style, it's Mega Man 1 again. It's a bit easier in a lot of ways, even though it has its own complications as well between some of the things you miss out on due to not being able to fire through walls and such. But again, it's Mega Man 1. Thankfully, I'll have a lot more to talk about when it comes to the credits for the main playthrough, because I want to keep my thoughts on the overall game and such and new style to that. But at the end of the day, being, I hope, my last time I'll see the original level design of Mega Man 1, ultimately, Mega Man 1 is a game I didn't think was that great compared to some of its sequels when I was younger, and I still think it's not the best Mega Man game, but it's a quick, accessible romp. You're done in like less than an hour, so it's worth a couple of playthroughs every here and there, I'd say, if you need something to play on like a bus ride or something. I'll play it again on my own time, but not for y'all. Also, I've always loved the Mega Man 1 credits theme. There's just something about how slow and almost optimistic it is that I've always just really liked. And despite it feeling weird in my bones to say it like this given we just watched a credit sequence, but with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 6, we'll be heading off to the Wily Castle of the main playthrough. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it in one part. I hope I'll be able to. I should be. But if not, one or two parts isn't going to hurt anything. See you guys then.